Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest live press conference reaction, where we will be delving into everything that's been discussed in the press conference from ERIK ten Hag, and we will also, of course, be giving our opinions on everything. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video, and please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Right, so the first question that ERIK ten Hag was asked was on the Mason Greenwood situation, which, of course, I'm sure everybody wanted to know what ERIK said on this one. So ERIK has said the following. He says, look, we are not where we want to be with our team. I have a lot of work and a lot of focus to do. So I focus on the players who are available. I only have statements about our performance, our squad, where we have to improve, because it's clear we have to improve. I have to put every effort in to get the team to perform. So ERIK ten Hag's completely dismissed the question about Mason Greenwood, which I guess is fair enough. It's not really his question to answer, is it? It should be Richard Arnold or John Murtagh who are out there answering that question, because those are the ones who've made a complete mess of that situation, not ERIK ten Hag. So I don't really blame him for avoiding the question there. But I mean, what do you really expect from ERIK ten Hag? What do you really expect him to say about Mason Greenwood? Do you expect him to say, oh, they've made the wrong decision, they should have brought him back? He's not going to say that, is he? He's the Manchester United manager. You can't simply say things like that. So he's pretty much completely avoided the question and ultimately said, all of his focus is just on the team, on the players he has. He has to make them perform. The first two games, obviously, we haven't performed, and he knows that. The next question he's asked about the injury crisis, which we all know is going on at the moment. And ERIK ten Hag has said the following on the injury crisis. He said, that is the situation. It's normal, top football. You go to the limits, injuries coming up, always disappointing, but you have to deal with it and construct a squad and deal with it. So, again, he's been quite dismissive about it. If I was him, I'd be very, very worried, because football is a results business. You lose two of your first team people within the space of 48 hours. You lose Mason Mount and Luke Shaw for what is being now described as potentially months. Anybody who didn't hear that, apparently Luke Shaw is actually going to be out for 2 months now, not a couple of weeks. So the injury situation gets worse and worse. I understand what ERIK ten Hag's saying, just saying this is the situation. These things happen at top football clubs. It's always disappointing, but you have to deal with it and construct a squad. Now, I hope that this constructing a squad involves us going out and buying more players, because if he has to construct a squad with what he has available to him at this moment in time, it's going to be a real struggle. It is, because we've got 7 people injured now. Kobe Mainoo, Ahmad, Tom Heaton, Mason Mount, Luke Shaw, Malacia. There's so many players, So hopefully we go out and strengthen in the next couple of weeks of the window, or the next week, sorry. The window closes a week today. Hopefully we go and strengthen now, and hopefully then we can kick on, because the amount of injuries that have piled up in this last 48 hours is crazy. 2 of our starting 11 are now gone. He's then asked again about Mason Greenwood. So these journalists today are really persistent on the Mason Greenwood situation, which I guess is fair enough. It's a big talking point. It's a big story. So he said the following on Mason Greenwood. He says, I focus on the current squad and the players available. So again, he's completely dismissed any questions about Mason Greenwood. He's refusing to answer them. And you know what? As I said a couple of minutes ago, this is not ERIK ten Hag's responsibility to answer this question. You should get John Murtagh and Richard Arnold out, and they should be the ones who answer the questions about Mason Greenwood. That should not be put on ERIK ten Hag. He wasn't the one who made the decision. It was John Murtagh and Richard Arnold. They should be the ones to answer that question. So I don't really blame ERIK ten Hag for just avoiding the question again, because he's probably sat there thinking, I wanted him back. That was public knowledge, and we now haven't got him back. So what do you really expect ERIK ten Hag to say? He's then asked, oh god. He's then asked about Rasmus Hojlund. So obviously all week we've heard from various different journalists that Rasmus Hojlund would be available for the game tomorrow. Okay. ERIK ten Hag is then asked if Rasmus Hojlund will be available for the match against Nottingham Forest tomorrow, and he says no, not for tomorrow. He's near. Today for the first time he came into team training, so next week we expect him to do a full week of training, so he is near to the squad. So just to be very clear, Hojlund will not be in the squad tomorrow. ERIK ten Hag has just confirmed it. No Hojlund. I mean, that's devastating, isn't it? That's so devastating. So, obviously, we've been told all week that he was going to be available on the bench, and that's clearly not happened. The key bit there is not for tomorrow. That's what he says. ERIK ten Hag confirms no Rasmus Hojlund in the squad tomorrow against Nottingham Forest. Not even on the bench. Oh, it's looking bleak at the moment, isn't it? No Luke Shaw, no Mason Mount, and now Rasmus Hojlund's not going to be there either. Do you know what? I just hope that the rest of those players who are fit go out there and put on a good performance. I really do. I hope they just feel like they have a bit of something to prove. I hope that they just go out and give it 110%, you know. He's then asked about Luke Shaw. Obviously, as I said just now, there's a story that's broken in the last 10 or so minutes from Manchester Evening News saying that apparently Luke Shaw is actually going to be out for 2 months now. So Erik ten Hag has asked the question, is Shaw going to be out for a long period of time? And Erik ten Hag says, we can't do that. We can't put a timescale on these things. It's personal these days. They will be for some period absent where Luke will be longer than Mason. Luke will be longer than Mason, I think. So all Erik ten Hag has said is that Luke Shaw will be out for longer than Mason Mount. That's it. But as I just said, the Manchester Evening News are reporting this afternoon that apparently Luke Shaw is going to be out for 2 months. 2 months. You know what? In some ways, I don't blame him for rushing Rasmus Hojlund. If Rasmus Hojlund gets injured again, we're in massive, massive trouble. We really are, especially if we don't actually end up buying anybody. The next question's on Malacia. So obviously Malacia has been injured for what? A month? We've heard nothing about Malacia. Ten Hag has asked for an update on Malacia's injury, and he says the following. Malacia will also take a few weeks before he will be back. Definitely we have the solutions in our squad to cope with that. We thought that before the season about this scenario. It could happen. You hope to avoid. But if it happens, you have to be ready for it. So Erik ten Hag's being very cool about it. He's ultimately saying that Malacia's out, Luke Shaw's out, but they have an option. They have a solution. I would love to know what this solution is. Are we going to see Anthony as a left back? Are we going to see Diogo Dalot? Are we going to see Alvaro Fernandez? I've literally got no idea. I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. But it looks like Malacia will be out for a few more weeks. That's what Ten Hag has just said. He's then asked about the fans' view on Mason Greenwood. He says, once again, what Manchester United fans expect is a winning Manchester United, and I'm responsible for that. I have to pull all my effort and all my focus and make us play better than the way we do. So again, he's completely avoided the question about Mason Greenwood, which, as I just said, I don't blame him. It's not his question to answer. His focus as the Manchester United manager is to win us games. He needs to win us games. He's not there to be the public person who has to take the brunt of Manchester United's poor decision making over Mason Greenwood. So I don't blame him at all for not answering that question. And I'm not going to criticise him for that because, as I said, it's not his question to answer. It should be John Murtough, Richard Arnold, the Glazers, if they had any involvement in the decision. They should be the ones who answer this question. Right, the next question is, he's asked, are you happy with the midfield that you have at the moment? And he says, you always have to analyse clinically, and the assessment is not right. It was about the back and front, not the midfield. That is why we were open. I said that straight after the game. So Erik ten Hag has completely dismissed all of our worries about the midfield. And he's ultimately saying that the problem in the first 2 games of the season was actually the defence and the attack. It was nothing to do with the midfield. He says it was not about... He says it was about the defence and the attack, not about the midfield. That is why we were open. So he seems to think he's happy with the midfield. I mean, if he genuinely is happy with that midfield that we saw for the first 2 games, then I don't know what to say, because it was absolutely terrible. It was. And the fact that we just lost Mason Mount as well, that doesn't really fill me with much hope. Right, the next thing he's asked about Casemiro. I know quite a few of you in the chat have been quite concerned about Casemiro's fitness levels and whether he looked up to the you know, the level of what the Premier League required. So Erik ten Hag's asked, is Casemiro fully fit? And he says, if you see the numbers, you see he's fully fit. I have no doubts that he can do it. After 35 minutes against Spurs, he didn't do it anymore, and we were across the rank, and we were first across the rank of fitness. I don't know what that means, to be honest. I have no idea what he's talking about there. Is he saying that after 35 minutes, Casemiro didn't run round against Tottenham? I think that's what he's saying. He's saying he can, but he didn't. I don't know. I mean, Casemiro, I'm not going to put any brunt on Casemiro. He's doing 3 people's jobs because none of the other players are able to defend. So I'm not going to blame Casemiro at this point. He's playing with 2 attacking midfielders, and he's the only defensive-minded one. So for me, I don't think so. The next thing he's asked about is Eric Bailly's future, and Erik ten Hag has said the following on Eric Bailly. He says, when we have news, we will give it straight away, but we don't, so we can't say anything about it. You know what? I'll be honest with you here, guys, right? Some of Erik ten Hag's answers is like getting blood out of a stone, isn't it? Trying to do a reaction to his quotes is quite difficult at times. And that was everything that was discussed. All of the topics are there. I will run through it really, really quickly just to give you guys a bit of a summary. So starting from the beginning, I'll rattle through this. In relation to the injury crisis, he says this is normal for a top club, okay? Mason Greenwood, he refused to answer any of the questions, completely avoided it. Hojlund is not available for the game tomorrow. Hojlund will not be in the squad whatsoever. That's been confirmed. Shaw, He says he can't put a timescale on how long he'll be out for, but it's going to be longer than Mason Mount. In relation to Malacia, he says he'll be back within a few weeks, so I guess that'll be after the international break. So in probably about 3 or 4 weeks, we'll see Malacia back. Again, he's asked about Greenwood. He doesn't answer it. He then talks about his midfield, and he says that he's happy with his midfield, and he thinks that actually the fault that we lost, or lost those game against Tottenham, was actually the attacking and the defence, not the midfield, which I disagree with, but he's the manager. Casemiro, he says yes, he's fit. ERIK he says he doesn't have any updates on it, and when he does, he'll tell us. And that was everything he went through. I'll be honest, I don't find Erik ten Hag's press conferences very inspiring, but I like him as a manager. And you know what? He doesn't like doing these things. He likes being on the pitch, coaching his players. That's what Erik ten Hag is good at. Football. He's not a very good person at speaking to press. He really isn't. Every time he speaks to the press, it is a little bit boring, isn't it? But I guess the main taking point from this press conference is that Hojlund won't play tomorrow. Luke Shaw is going to be out for quite a long time. Yeah. But Rasmus Hojlund has started training again and will be in contention to make his debut against Arsenal next Sunday. So it looks like we will see Rasmus Hojlund next Sunday. But does anybody really think we're going to go to the Emirates and win? I'm not trying to be negative here, but based off what we've seen in those first 2 games, does anybody really expect us to go and get a result against Arsenal? Does anybody expect Rasmus Hojlund to come in and do well against Arsenal away from home? I don't know. I'm not sure, but that's everything that was discussed today, guys. I'm going to wrap the video up there. I'm going to keep it short. We will, of course, be back live later on today, but before you leave, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel, and please do let me know in the comments section what you think of all of the answers that Erik ten Hag has said today. I'll catch you all on the next one. Take it easy. We've got a super chat here quickly, actually, before we wrap up the video. Cesar Gerardo says, would you like to see Estupinan on the left? Yeah, I think Estupinan would be a quality signing, mate. But the only issue with that is he's probably going to cost you, what, 80 to 100 million pounds based on how much Brighton sold Cucurella to Chelsea for. So for me, I would love to see Estupinan as the left back, but I just think it's a little bit unrealistic at this point. And Erik ten Hag, in his press conference just now, seems to think that the situation we have at the moment is enough, and he's happy with the defensive options, and he seems to have some sort of plan of what's going to happen against Nottingham Forest tomorrow. So we've just got to trust Erik ten Hag. We've got to hope that he knows what this plan is, and we hope that it works, because otherwise questions, of course, are going to be asked, and you know how it is in football. It's a results business. You have to win games. You have to get the 3 points. But thank you so much to everyone for watching today. Please do smash a like on the video and subscribe on your way out, and I'll catch you all later.